Afternoon. I'm over my rant yesterday on car tax. Cup of tea. Half a chocky biscuit. And interestingly, I just wanted to chat about the Ozempic fat jab. Too many of these and I'll need one. Aha, I hear you. So some of you all say you need one already. Yeah, I can hear it all now. I find it concerning generally, and it's in this era of our government just throwing money at stuff where they want to, and quick easy fixes, which often include vaccinations or jabs of some sort. So yeah, I don't have all the facts, so as ever I'm just talking about my opinions and experiences. But when I walk around, which I go all over the place, I very rarely see somebody who's morbidly obese that they can't do a job. And I hear you say, well, yeah, they wouldn't be out and about, would they? They'd be at home. But again, how many of those people are there that literally are so obese they can't fulfill a job? And unfortunately, or fortunately these days, there are loads of jobs that we can do from home, as I know. What is the cost of providing such jabs? Because you'll need to provide them pretty much for life. If not all the time, definitely off and on, because you'll come off it. It'll be like an extreme diet, which, having worked in the fitness industry, I know never works. You lose loads of weight, and as soon as you go back to normal and your metabolic rate has been totally badgered, you'll put more weight back on, because your body will just absorb every single calorie you eat because it thinks it's going to go into another famine. So it will just retain every calorie and become a really ineffective machine at burning fat and energy. So that will be the same with these jabs. So what is the cost of providing these per person for life if they say start them at the age of 25, for example? And I think I heard in another conversation that in the trials, I think 10% of people had extreme adverse reactions. So how much will that cause the NHS in terms of treating such reactions? And again, there was an article that said, I think over 20 deaths have been linked to these jabs. So yeah, can have quite extreme reactions. Yeah, so I'm just asking questions of how much do these people actually cost the NHS, and how much in comparison do these jabs cost going forward, and perhaps dealing with adverse reactions. I've said in the past, I think they may have a place to play where someone is really morbidly obese, and it helps them get to a weight where they're then able to go for walks every day, start doing some weights and some weight-bearing exercises, and getting their heart rate up so they can start to lose weight naturally. So they do have a role to play there, and probably the balance of pros and cons weighs in their favour if you're in that situation. Apparently the welfare bill has gone up exponentially since COVID. In my opinion, I don't think this will be due to weight. I think it'll be due to other health concerns. I think, as ever, this government a lot of governments just go for the quick fixes that, again, earn a lot of money, rather than getting to the real causes, which I think often are the lack of jobs. Because if you don't have a job and a need to get up every day and get out the house and move, you will just sit at home. Or if you work from home all the time, again, I don't think that's healthy. You'll just be going to make a cup of tea every 2 minutes, go to the fridge, go to the cupboards, snack and graze all day, and sit on the sofa or your chair where you work. I think a big issue is mental health. And yes, that will have definitely been affected by the lockdowns. And, you know, I jest with some of my comments that I make all the time in the state of this country. But there is so much to get upset about, whether it's cost of living, there's just the general negativity of what you read every day in the news, the weather, job opportunities, government overreach. As I said, cost of living is just crazy. Doom and gloom of viruses every 2 minutes, or wars, or there's always something, isn't there, that's not really that positive when you switch on the news to listen to what's happening. And I do think it's also linked to how kids are taught in schools in terms of not being patriotic, and everything's a bit negative and hateful or divisive, rather than bigging up the country, feeling good and wanting to do your best for your country. I think we really need to have a big campaign on self-respect, which also is linked to those that often don't work. It's a feeling of what can I do, or lack of aspiration. I think that's a big thing. And again, having a feeling of hope. So where things don't cost very much and you can afford to maybe save up for that car or get a house, go for a holiday, having something to look forward to. I've said in the past, again, we need to go back to the food suppliers, go back to your big Unilevers and Procter & Gamble's and people that make all that food that you buy in your Tesco's and your Sainsbury's and your Asda's. There's no reason why packaged goods can't be a lot healthier than they are already. We need to support our farmers again, make the ability to produce local, fresh, nutritious food much more easily, and get the supply much more readily available so that people can buy it more often and more cheaply. Schools need to do PE. Many don't. I think they should do it 3 times a week. I've said in the past how that's great for fitness, instilling that kind of mindset of keeping active, and it's great for behaviour and focus in class, team spirit and bonding in school, and brilliant for mental health. It's one of the main reasons I do it. It's a brilliant stress reliever. It helps sleep. It's just, it's win-win. And the phones, they do have a big problem. We're all on them too much. Kids, very much so. Like I said before, I would come home from school and I'd only have half an hour of TV. So the rest of the time I would be reading or doing stuff or playing outside, seeing my friends. People used to be a lot more active. So although I hate government overreach, I probably would support a ban on smartphones for under 16s. I think I would in balance. And, so much, again, comes down to personal responsibility, which is something, again, that we don't seem to teach much these days, which used to be a huge thing in my grandparents' or my parents' era, when it comes to work and fitness and health and behaviour, just all of it. Whereas again, we do live increasingly in a nanny state. And again, going back to COVID, the idea that people kind of waited to hear what they could do every day, even down to having a walk and how long that could last for, and whether you could have a coffee. And I think so many quite like that devoid aspect of personal responsibility and want to be told what to do all the time. Whether a lot of people have been quite infantilized, whether they find it comforting, I don't know. There is a lot to look into there. But again, going to medical interventions, you'd think we'd learn a little bit after having pushed huge novel medical interventions in the last few years, that sometimes we want to wait for longer term research and looking at side effects before rushing into giving it in mass droves to people. And the idea that you would use this on kids again in growing bodies, in my opinion, is just utterly mad. Yeah. So it's a very difficult thing. So it's like I said, I think it's got its place with morbidly obese people, to get them to a position where they can exercise. But really, for anybody else, all these things, you know, they'll have to be used for life, because like I say, anything extreme only works in the short term. And anyone who knows their fitness knows it's just about in and out, calories in, calories out. I like my little treat, so I work out 6 times a week. I walk the dog twice a day. I know not everyone can do that because of work, but the fitness I do is only 20 minutes. And you could break that up if you worked from home and do like a 5-minute burst here, a 5-minute burst there. Everyone can fit that in. It's about mindset. For me, it is a real religion for me. It's like brushing my teeth. It's just something I do, and I have done since about the age of 10. And the other thing I would ask is how so many people are measured in terms of being obese, because if they're using the BMI measurement, it's totally inept and it shouldn't really be used, especially in growing bodies like children or anyone who has a high muscle density. Muscle's around 4 times heavier than fat, I think. So it always gives a skewed benchmark of what your BMI is. I remember one Olympian guy I knew, and he was told he was morbidly obese because height to weight ratio and everything, he came out in the morbidly obese category because he was pure muscle and weighed a lot more than the chart said he should be weighing. Anyway, yeah. But for me, when it comes to medical interventions, less is more.